I am Dean Lupkey, your Director of Civil Defense. The next few minutes are extremely important to each of us. I ask your indulgence and ask that you consider carefully the contents of this film. Your welfare, the future welfare of each of us, may well depend upon it. Each of us must know his role in his community plan for civil defense. Each of us must fulfill it. How well we do this may determine who among us is to survive such devastation as we've just witnessed. This is not an alarm and should not be considered as such. But should our country be attacked, your individual safety and the safety of your family and friends will be determined by how well you have prepared. When the civil defense attack warning system sounds in your community, it will then be too late. This is not speculation, it is fact. And each of us has the individual responsibility of recognizing it as fact, and through our local civil defense organization, of doing something about it. I would like to introduce our governor, the Honorable John M. Dalton. Governor Dalton carries a very heavy responsibility for each of us. Survival is likewise his concern. Governor Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Lupkey. Survival is as basic in mankind as walking and breathing. Every man fights for his life when it is threatened and takes steps to assure the safety of himself and his family. And today, as never before, every citizen of Missouri needs to take steps to ensure his chances for survival. I'm speaking of the dangers of thermonuclear war. We all hope and pray that there will never be such a calamity which could take the lives of millions of persons. But many millions could be saved if we are prepared and armed with the knowledge of what those dangers are. Contained within the borders of our state are what are considered to be three major target sites. In our neighboring states of Kansas and Oklahoma are dozens of other targets, so we could be doubly vulnerable to radioactive fallout carried on the prevailing winds from the west. The federal government at the present time is engaged in an extensive program to determine our capabilities for public shelters and how they may be improved. The results of this program at best will be inadequate so far as the protection for all the people is concerned. Some months ago, we began in our state to further prepare our citizens. The basements of large public buildings offer very good protection from radioactive fallout. Therefore, I have caused the best locations in basements of buildings owned by the state of Missouri to be marked as fallout shelters. However, if we are to be totally prepared, it's up to each and every one of us to take whatever steps necessary, consistent with our means, to ensure the protection of ourselves and our families. Your state government and the local governments of many Missouri cities and counties have already taken steps to assure your safety in case of enemy attack. Within minutes after a warning is received, it can be flashed across the state. Some areas can then quickly warn citizens through air raid sirens. Others have yet to take this important step. We in government will provide all that we can, for civil defense is the responsibility of government, federal, state, and local. Industry and business have also done or will do their share. But it is up to every citizen in the state of Missouri to further provide for his own safety. Our Missouri Civil Defense Director can tell us what we should do individually. He will likewise briefly acquaint you with government planning to survive those conditions. Mr. Lupkey?
Thank you, Governor Dalton. Fellow Missourians, civil defense, as Governor Dalton has told you, is a responsibility of government. Many of the steps which must be taken in the defense of our lives and property can only be taken by government forces on the federal, state, county, and city level. These include warning, communications, organization of auxiliary police services, auxiliary fire services, and radiological monitors. Organization to meet the demands of a disaster can obviously be done only by government. However, there are many things which can be done only by the individual that do not depend entirely upon the awareness and action of government. These steps pertain to yours and your family's preparedness for surviving the devastation of the thermonuclear attack. Now, let's look at the general conditions we can anticipate in our state in case of attack. We are relatively certain that attempts will be made to hit the three major targets illustrated here. However, the military installations would be in all probability the primary objectives, with the cities as secondary targets. Within a 10 to 20 mile radius of ground zero of each thermonuclear explosion, depending on the size of the warhead and its proximity to Earth when detonated, there would be almost complete disintegration of everything which happened to be there. Everything would be pulverized, sending thousands of tons of matter in the form of minute particles high into the air, sucked up and forming the mushroom-shaped cloud visible after the explosion. There, the minute dust particles would mix with the deadly radiation created by the explosion, causing them to become radioactive. The various wind currents would then carry these dust particles high into the atmosphere and across the state, dropping them in patterns similar to those illustrated here. No area in the state would be safe from these deadly particles, as well as those floating in from neighboring states. There are ways to avoid such radioactive fallout, and learning how it can be accomplished should be one of your greatest concerns. All of our federal, state, and local governments' planning and efforts are of little value if you neglect your individual responsibility in carrying it out. Where thermonuclear warfare is concerned, you must realize the alternatives are limited. It is either survival or death. And individual preparedness, while there is still time, is the surest means to survival. Now, I would like to outline for you the 5 basic steps which you must take for survival. First, you must learn the nature of radioactive fallout and what you can expect from it. To know this is to be better qualified to protect yourself and your family from it. Learn the effects of heat, blast, and fallout, what dangers they present, and what you can do about it. There are specific things regarding shelters which you must take into consideration, such as the type of shelters, shelter equipment, supplies and equipment for sanitation, food and cooking equipment, and items which you should keep outside your shelter but within reach. Secondly, you should know how to equip yourself to meet emergency first aid requirements and what you should do toward home emergency preparedness. This involves the delegation of responsibility to the individual member of your family. What these responsibilities are and how they can and should be shared by the entire family, like all of the other information, can be obtained through your local civil defense office. Other education which you should have in qualifying yourself for first aid and home emergency preparedness should include decontamination procedures, how to live through long periods of confinement in your fallout shelter, and the precautions you should take upon coming out of your shelter. Third, you should know your civil defense attack warning signals and what they mean. You should know of the equipment which is available to help you to receive these warning signals. And you should learn the emergency action you should take upon receiving the warning signals. Fourth, you should learn the importance of CONELRAD to your survival. Become acquainted with its procedure, how to equip yourself to receive maximum benefit from it. It's your only contact with the world during an attack and your only authoritative source of information at such a time. And last, you should learn your community plan for emergency action. Not only your life and those of your family will depend on it, but your responsibilities have just begun when you learn it is safe to come out of your shelter. Remember these 5 steps. It's worth our time, and by now we sincerely hope that you believe it's worth yours.
Thank you, Mr. Lupkey. You have learned briefly through this film some of the dangers we face from thermonuclear war and some of the steps each individual can take to improve his chances for survival. How well each individual follows these instructions could be vital in time of need. You're not expected to remember everything to which you have been exposed in the last few minutes. And even if you did, it would not be enough. Within each of the 5 steps to survival, which Mr. Lupkey outlined for you, are detailed plans of action for you to take. Plans evolved after much research and team effort. They are the surest means at this time for surviving the ever-present threat of a general thermonuclear war, a threat which is very real. Your local office of civil defense is available to help you. Its qualified personnel is there to serve you. Go by to see them. Thank you very much.